Good morning and welcome to Agriculture Live. My name's Rebecca Shields. Now, don't go anywhere. I don't want you to miss this episode. It's going to be a good one. We're diving deep into the theme of why disabilities shouldn't hold you back from a career in agriculture, which really is an essential topic for the future of the agricultural industry. If you've got any questions, comments, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them when we can. So, over to you, Mike. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, Rebecca, and good morning, everybody. My name's Mike Duxbury. I'm the Chief Executive of Inclusive Farm Scotland at Robert, and also the Managing Director of Inclusive Farm Bedfordshire.
Fantastic. So, Mike, for those that don't know, you are one of the UK's only blind farmers. So can you tell us about your disability and your story?
Sure, yeah, no problem. Well, many people who know me knows the story, but I lost my sight at 6 years old, so I am totally blind. But I knew from a very young age my passion for animals and my passion for the farming industry was my burning ambition to be a farmer. I know lots of people want to be footballers or rock stars or whatever it might be. I just wanted to be a farmer, and I made sure that my drive from that age, although I knew I was different, I wanted to be the same as everybody else, if you like. So that's what I did. I dedicated my young life to learning as much about agriculture. I went to agricultural college as the first blind person at Morton Morrell. And I've then, since that day, long time ago, I've had a career in the animal feed industry as a qualified nutritionist. I've also worked on a stud farm looking after pigs. I've worked in the telecoms industry for a big chunk of my life, but I've also worked predominantly in agriculture, mainly with livestock. So that's a bit about my disability and me, really.
So, what was the drive behind wanting to go down the agricultural route, Mike?
That's a really good question. What would drove me? I guess I came from originally from East Lancashire, very working class background. Um, but I guess I wanted a lifestyle that I could enjoy, a lifestyle that I could really be part of. And I knew as a blind person that there was very little in the factories and that environment that really would fit. And also, I just couldn't see myself in an office or in a factory. And I've always had a passion for animals, so I guess it was the animals that drove me. And then, of course, when I first met my first lot of pigs at the age of 8, well, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked on pigs, and I'm still hooked on them today.
And are you from a farming family, Mike?
Yes, I'm from a farming background. Well, I grew up on a farm, actually in Worcestershire. I spent because I went to boarding school at Worcester, and I was brought up on a farm there, and I worked predominantly with cattle and sheep. But I knew I still love that. I love the outdoor life. I love the struggles that farming, and it's tough life. But to me, the more it's hard to explain. I suppose that toughness and that battle with nature, battle with the elements, seeing animals grow and develop, just really floated my boat, if you like.
I guess some people may have said to you, "What, you can't do farming because you're blind." What challenges have you faced? Tell us about that.
Oh, well, my teachers, all the people who should have supported me never did,
Mm.
and it was the most unexpected people. who were great. So yes, I was told when I sat down. Funny enough, we were asked at 7 years old in the classroom. In fact, an old school friend of mine recently reminded me of this, and asked us what we'd like to be when we're older. And of course, you have the footballer, the rock star, the teacher, the whatever. And they got round to little old me, and I said, I just want to be a farmer. And the answer from the teacher was, "Don't be silly, Mike. Blind people don't farm."
Mm.
And I think to me that was red rag to a bull. Those who know me know how belligerent and stubborn I can be. And I guess I also told my father when I came back from boarding school, where I was at a special school for all other blind people, and I stood there and told my dad, I said, I don't want to be like them. I just want to be like everybody else out there and live a normal life. And I guess for a little boy of 7, 8, 9 to say that had quite a dramatic effect on my father.
Mm.
So yeah, no, and through life, you always get the doubters. But seriously, Rebecca, I have never had. I've seen discrimination. I've faced discrimination. I've had the horrible comments. I've had the nastiness and unpleasantness. But do you know something? I've never had any of that in agriculture.
Well, that's brilliant, but it should be like it everywhere, shouldn't it?
It should be, but sadly, it isn't. And we're in 2025, and still we have a major problem with disabled people being employed. Um, I'll just throw some very brief stats because this will shock your audience. 90% of blind people in the UK are unemployed,
Mm.
and 78% of autistic people are unemployed.
Wow.
And a recent BBC survey said the employment opportunities for disabled people hasn't changed in 65 years.
Wow.
So we're trying to change that. And one of the reasons why I set up Inclusive Farm, I did a piece for the government about 8 years ago. I spoke to lots of recruitment companies. I spoke to lots of businesses, and we did a piece around sending out job applications with including a disability or excluding a disability. The ones where we didn't include disability in the application, we got around about a 60% success rate, which I don't know if that's normal, but that's what we got. And from that, quite a few interview offers and so on. In the environment where we sent out the applications with disability put into the actual application, we sent out 251. I had to remind myself this morning of the facts, actually. We sent out 251 job applications.
Mm.
Let me tell you what the results were. We had one reply.
Wow. So why do you think that it puts people off hiring someone with a disability?
I think the reasons are very simple. Lack of education. I don't mean education as in these people are stupid,
Mm.
but if you go back to the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s, there was a lot of people, especially in my world as a blind person, we were seen as telephonists in banks. We were seen as basket weavers, piano tuners, and this, if you like, stereotypes. And stereotypes in this world, really do stick sometimes. And I think employers, especially, I think it's a fear. I think it's a lack of understanding that they think, oh, they assume that a blind person is somebody who bumbles around with a white stick or a guide dog, and whatever. But it just simply isn't like that. Technology is so good today. I mean, when I went to agricultural college, There was no books around agriculture. I'd just sit there in a lecture and then run back to my room and put it all on a pocket tape recorder. And that's how I got through college.
Mm.
Nowadays, I've got iPhones that talk to me. I've got technology that does everything, AI, all the stuff that's on it, but yet we're still not getting people to employment. Now,
Do you think the increased cost of doing it might put people off?
where's the increased costs? That's the point. There is no increased costs. I mean, there is a government organisation called Access to Work. So any extra costs that businesses need is supported by the government. So there's no the support for businesses. I mean, when I joined Vodafone back in 1999, 98, technology was only just starting to break through. Yet
Mm.
I went from the call centre to global head of accessibility.
Wow.
And that wouldn't have happened unless I was good at my job.
Absolutely not.
And I think what was the icing on the cake for me, and I won't name the company because it's not fair, but it wasn't yours. You're all right. It wasn't an expert. I sat down with a senior person within a very large recruitment company, and we were talking about opportunities. What was out there for people. With my background and training. And his words to me was, and I always remember this, and it floored me. Now, bear in mind, this was only in no, it wasn't. Yes, it was 2019.
So not
Sorry,
even that
Mike.
long ago.
No, sorry, Mike. We do not do jobs for people like you.
I can't believe that.
This is true. Absolutely true. My partner who sat with me at the time, because she was helping me take notes, we both sat there when we were absolutely flabbergasted. And this is probably one of the biggest recruitment companies in the country. So that's why we started Inclusive Farm.
So tell us about Inclusive Farm. What is it? What do you do? Where is it?
Okay, so Inclusive Farm, the brand, was started is out of frustration from myself. Basically, I could not get a job. I tried. I've still kept all things. I've tried 517 job applications. I've worked with people across agriculture, but I couldn't get a job. So I decided one night at 2:15 in the morning, and it's my partner's worst nightmare. I woke up and I said, "I've got this idea," and I still do it now. And she tries to throttle me. No. And I said, "Why don't we sell everything we've got, get a piece of land, and I'll build us a farm, and if it and let's farm all the things that I love, as nobody else wants me, let's farm it." And she said, "Well, hang on, what is this farm going to look like?" And I said, "Well, I was trying to," she said, "Mike, I can't get my head around this." So I said, "Okay." So she went and got me some Lego. And I built the farm in Lego. And then we sold everything we had, as in our motorhome. And I had a sports car at the time. We sold everything. And we went and bought loads of timber. I built a barn, a 3-bay barn, put up all the fences, pens, and we stocked it with pigs, calves, sheep, hens, everything. And there was born, I said, well, it's got to be inclusive because I know everybody will use it. It can come here and use it. And we invited lots of organisations right across the board to come and give us their thoughts and feelings and comments. And everything was just positive, positive, positive. In fact, so much so that they all said, "We'd like to come and use the farm for our students." And I said to my partner, "Well, what a great idea. Let's see if anybody wants to use it as a teaching establishment." And we tied up with Milton Keynes College and some other schools. And before we know it, we're teaching 20 students a week. And the brand went from strength to strength. We've now got 2 farms in the UK, and we were recognised in 25 countries worldwide.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
So
if it doesn't come to you, Mike, you certainly go and get it, don't you? Make it happen.
yeah, but isn't that isn't and in some ways I'm glad that nobody wanted me, because we wouldn't have inclusive farm. And you know, the one thing I've seen from this, as we grow and as I get in touch with lots of people and work with lots of organisations, they absolutely do want to do it. The agriculture wants to embrace it, but they don't want to make mistakes,
Mm.
and
Do you?
they don't want to deny people.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that there's enough role models with disabilities in agriculture?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So maybe that's
Because
where it starts. People like you.
well, possibly, but traditionally, as you may know yourself from the background, if people are injured in agriculture, they tend to disappear out of it.
Mm.
You know, but yet I mean, I was at the spring show here in Scotland, in Aberdeenshire yesterday, and I went round loads of stands and met with lots of people, and the hunger for wanting to do this,
Mm.
it absolutely floored me.
I mean, what mistakes do you think they're scared of making?
I think it's a lot of it is terminology, Rebecca. I mean, like one guy yesterday, and we both laughed about it when he said it. He said, "Oh, Mike, come and have a look at this tractor." He said, "Oh, bloody hell, you can't see it." I said, "No, but I can have a good feel." And we laughed about it. And he said, "And that is, he said, but you don't mind that?" I said, "No." I said, "I think a lot of people, Rebecca, are frightened to ask the questions. They meet me and they're blatantly asked, so can you see anything or not? What, and I think he's absolutely right. I think we should be able to answer questions, because at the end of the day, I am blind. I've got nothing to hide. And if it helps other people overcome their fears of saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, and isn't it easier just to say no? If you're a recruitment company, I came to you for a job, it's probably easier for you guys because of the efforts and the time needed to do things. It is. I'm not saying you do it. I'm saying, but the easiest thing is to say no. Sorry, at this moment, there's nothing, because people are afraid of it for whatever reason.
So, what are the benefits to employers of hiring someone with a disability? Tell us about your superpower, Mike.
Well, one thing you will get is loyalty. That's the first thing. You will get somebody. One thing that, as a disabled person, the one thing we are really good at is problem solving. We every day of our life, we're faced with a barrier which we have to overcome. So we're very good at problem solving. We're also very dedicated to what we do. Fortunately, because I've lost my sight, I'm very good. My brain seems to be very good. So, I can, anything I learn in a business, I can stand on the stand and regurgitate. When I used to be in the feed industry, I knew every single feed and its breakdown and the percentages of oil, fiber, and proteins, and this and that, just off the top of my head. So we are very, we have a lot of skills that a lot of companies can benefit from. And we've already shown that really has an impact on the bottom line.
Mm. And didn't you say that some of your other senses are heightened more than the
Well,
average Joe?
well, they would, but my hearing would be better if I didn't play in a rock band, which I'm sure doesn't do me much good because I don't wear earplugs. Um, yeah, no, they are. My hearing, my sense of touch, my sense of smell. I mean, I can go onto a farm, and I can pick up many problems with animals purely by smell.
Wow, that's incredible.
And Of course, when it comes to lambing, who better than to have, if you have a problem with a ewe trying to lamb down a couple of tangled up twins, than me get my hands in there, who's got my eyes in my fingers.
So good.
So
So why is it important that, companies make diversity and inclusion a real priority within their business?
okay, it's very simple. Look, we're in a world at the moment, as you're fully aware, and your listeners fully aware. Agriculture is under huge pressures from vast different directions. We've got what's going on with the government over inheritance and farm payments and the environment and food security and food supplies, plus the battle with the elements, global prices, and I could go on. Okay, so that's on one hand. Number two is the new blood coming in agriculture has dropped considerably. We are desperate for new blood. Now, there are I think this morning I've checked the figures, it's about 9.3 million people currently in the UK who are either not working or not looking for work. And a lot of those people, a big percentage, are people with disabilities who've been told all their lives they're no good for anything and therefore have stopped looking. And yet these are people with enormous, fantastic education, brilliant, minds and brains on them, and yet nobody wants them. But also, more than anything, look at agriculture. What we're having to do at the moment, many farms are having to diversify in practices. Many farms are having to diversify in how the farms are run. They're diversifying it into the enterprises that they are running. Oh, and guess what? Diversifying into people is probably not a bad thing neither.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what should agricultural employers do to support people with disabilities better, do you think?
Well, work with organisations like ourselves. One of the things that I found was the big key, and it was never meant to be like this, but because I'm disabled myself and with a background in farming, a lot of other disabled people can relate to me because I'm like them. If you look around you, many projects that are set up for disabled people are usually set up by very well-meaning, able-bodied people but don't understand the day-to-day barriers that disabled people face. But by tackling it my way, when you go to the people who've been to my farm down south and this new farm in Scotland, is yes, you'll walk around and you probably will never see the changes I've made because they're subtle changes. Because at the end of the day, it's a working farm, and working farms bring what working farms bring. But there's subtleties, and those subtleties are making sure that the gateways are wide enough to take all that's necessary. Not just a 3-foot gate into a pen, but make it 4 foot so somebody in a wheelchair can get in there. I put matting on the floor in front of the pens so that if you've got your arms full of buckets and bales of hay, you've got something to feel with your feet when you're getting close to the pens. Each pen front is a different tactile layout. So if you are blind and the wind's blowing a hoolie, which in Scotland it often does, I just need to reach out, touch the fence, and because I know the shape of that fence, I know exactly where I am.
It's amazing, just them little subtle changes that make the difference.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, though, all I'll say to it, because I'm blind, it doesn't mean I'm stupid.
No.
It's just the eyes that work. So, and if you look at agriculture, and I try and use agriculture rather than farming because everybody, again, when I say farming, it conjures up driving tractors, milking cows, chasing sheep around the field. And yes, of course, I have my limitations when it comes to that. But back in the 80s, 90s, when I was going into farming, pigs were kept indoors. Once I learnt the shape and the outline of all the pig units, I was just the same as anybody else.
So if you're a business today listening and you want to make changes to your diversity, inclusion practice, get more people who have disabilities into your organisation, where do you start? What do you do?
You get into, first thing is there's people like myself who are there to help. The more we help people, the more we all work together, the better industry that I absolutely love. And I've loved now for nearly 50 years. And I still love it today. You know, this is a special to me. So if there's anybody out there who is thinking about getting involved with this, get in touch. And I'm easily available on the website, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Just get in touch and we'll help them. You know, it doesn't cost vast sums of money to make your world more accessible. What it takes, excuse me, is commitment and wanting to do it, believing it. You know, at the end of the day, we're not trying to make farms fully accessible because a working farm is a working farm. You know, and we've got to keep it like that because that's how it is. But there are things you can do that are easy, but are good for everybody, whether you've got a disability or not.
And you've said that there are organisations out there that will support and help.
Yes,
you know, extra
yeah,
costs and things like that.
Yeah, there's loads of support, but it's got. I mean, you know, I do a lot of work with Scottish government. I do a lot of work with big businesses. I'm always called in by some big agricultural companies who have learnt that actually by retaining their staff and by supporting their staff, they've got a better workforce.
Absolutely. So, Mike, we're coming to the end now. A question that I ask all of my guests is, you know, what do you think is the biggest issue next for agriculture?
I think the one thing that we don't do enough of is work together. I think the one thing that the government's forced us to do is more and more of us realizing that we have to work together. You know, if we have to build another 1.5 million homes in the UK, whatever happens, some of that is going to take up extremely rich agricultural land, which once used will never be used again. So I think food production for me and collaboration between groups and farmers, they're the two key things that worry me about the future. We've got to pull together and work as a team.
That's so interesting. Thanks, Mike. I mean, what a role model you are for the industry and what a story. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. And thank you so much, Mike, for joining me today. Keep following us. We have got some great new discussions coming up. Next Thursday, we're going to be talking about how do UK farmers go from value adding to wealth creating. And if you've got an interesting topic in agriculture that you would like to talk about, please get in contact with me via Agricultural Recruitment Specialist, which is www.agrirs.com. And if you would like to hear more on new issues and topics within the agricultural and farming industry, you can follow us on various channels, including Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Just look up Agriculture Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Mike, would you like to say goodbye from you?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Rebecca, for your time and giving us a chance to talk about what we're trying to do. And good luck to all those farmers and farming people out there.
Thanks, Mike. Goodbye, everyone.